Welcome back to Cosmic Brilliance, folks, with part 2 of this series where both Dragon Fae creator super soldier Apollymi Mandylion and Void Dragon Protector creator Dr. Amir Jahangiri will share their personal knowledge of the Hell Realms. I learned from Apollymi a very important fact that changed my life forever. And she's very humble, so she's going to be going, what is that? And that is the key to soul ascension graduation on Earth is neutrality. I have shared that with hundreds. We have done shows on it, and it's such an important guidepost to use in self-referential attitude, etc. And I needed it. So in this spirit of neutrality, I am honoring Apollymi's wish to inform the public what you don't know about all your afterlife options, so you can make wiser afterlife choices and expand your consciousness with greater knowledge and wise application to focus on my passion, which is ascension and greater soul freedom. So as you learned in part 1, these two creator guests are more than qualified to teach the truth about the Hell and Infernal Realms because they both have been there and more. For those of you that are up to speed as regular subscribers, you know that Apollymi is off-world now, not available to talk or have emails to, so we are very pleased to have her back, as well as our deeply honored guest, Dr. Amir Jahangiri. Welcome, you both.
Thank you for having me back.
It's an honor to be with you.
Aw, thank you. So in part 1, as a brief recap, just a brief recap, please listen to part 1 first. In part 1, Apollymi covered the initial first 2 reasons why hell was established. Also covered were the details and duties of the top hell hierarchy, describing the emperor, empress, prince, and princess of the realms, of which we had permission for them to share, as well as the location of hell and more. Now, if you find you feel a little resistance to this topic, like I initially did, or even some trepidation about it and some of what you may hear, just remember to take deep breaths and let go, being willing to replace any concern with healthy curiosity and neutrality. I have found learning about this fascinating, and you will discover in part 3, just like Earth right now, that hell is being reformed. In part 1, we shared in mid-April 2025 hugely, I mean hugely important updates that occurred involving very high dimensional dark groups working with dark earth corporations who decided, good idea, not, to go to war with Prime Source Creator itself. So, wow, all I can say is talk about daddy issues. So, welcome back, you both, and thank you so much for contributing your valuable time and expertise in this subject matter. I really appreciate it. So, let's start with you, Apollymi, and then Amir, who so graciously always is patient and waits to add his brilliant insights, will be second. Okay. I would be remiss not to have Apollymi and Amir both share first their active participation in these latest ongoing wars, covering, I believe, at least 5 universes, and to share a bit more about the very important continual Omniverse soul auditing that is occurring from the top down, starting with prime source creators, avatars, mortals, creators, angelics, gods and goddess worlds, all the councils, and now humanity. And that is happening that most don't know about, whether your soul is in body or out of body. So go ahead, Apollymi, and do you want to catch up since our last one, whatever you're allowed to say, and then Amir can follow.
As most don't know, these entities who are basically, well, most of them are no longer existing right now because they have been deleted. basically their consciousness is no longer a single identity. They have been completely deleted of their freedom of that and have been absorbed into just basically source memory. So what happens when you break all the laws? We have had a couple more skirmishes, but basically what happened was these entities who have been rampaging throughout what we call the Oververse, which is the all of outside of Hanova's grand central sun, and outside of Hanova is the Oververse. And it has 7 omniverses in it. Every single omniverse is getting audited because there's a lot of entities that have been in very high tier consciousness, following the laws of one, following the golden rules, that have been corrupted somehow. And so now every single soul in existence, every consciousness in existence is getting audited.
A big deal. So,
Huge.
so I thought Omniverse was the most expensive. So there's an Oververse
Yeah.
that contains like I like is it infinite Omniverse? I mean, like it's fractals and fractals and fractals and fractals, but is there like an approximate like that 20 omniverses that contain millions of universes? Like, how do people get a picture of that at all?
So if you have a black tablecloth and you have a bowl of soup in the middle, the soup itself is Hanova. The bowl represents the barrier around Hanova that nothing can come through and or exit without extreme contracts. The black tablecloth is what most people will call the void. It's part of the Omniverse. Each Immortal Seven has their own Omniverse. So with that bowl of soup in the middle, you're gonna now place 7 apples. And each one of those apples is ruled or governed by one of the Immortal Sevens to do whatever they want with through, guidelines and rules. And each one of those apples, if you think about every atom in that apple is a universe. And that's how we break it down.
The atom in that
Yeah.
apple.
Every atom in that apple is a universe within that omniverse.
Okay. And once again, just a remind, excellent, excellent description. That is awesome. Thank you. Just a reminder for people that the immortals are actual avatars of Source
Mhm.
Creator it's themselves. So just remember that in her description. Minus one who got a little retired. I'll leave it at that.
Yes.
Okay. How long will it be for replacement, do you think?
We're still in the process of that.
Okay.
Off record. I have not chosen the person for the seat yet.
Yes, I understand.
So
Okay. Wow. Okay. How about Amir? Do you want to add anything? Your
I
experience?
just I just love the visualization. So the apple being one of these immortal beings, and then every atom being a universe. Myself coming from a Middle Eastern Persian background, I use the visuals, the paintings of Rumi in words, the vine, and becoming drunk with enlightenment, finding your way back to source. So I see each universe as a grape, and then the local cluster is like the fruit. The little stem, it's connected to the vine, and then the vine has many fruits. And then there's the vineyard, as far as the eye can see. And so that would be the atoms in the apple. So yes, infinity cannot be grasped completely with the human mind. It is generative, ever evolving and changing. And so it seems like this process of inhalation and exhalation is like waves of creation going out from the beloved source of all things and then extending out to everything there is. And so we see these waves of correction that reach everyone and everything. Seems now we're going through one of these waves of correction as the beloved source goes, I speak and therefore it is. So it's a wonderful time to be alive.
Prime Source is making sure of a lot of things. One is that it and the entire Omniverse doesn't get virally contaminated. So my personal sense is the underlings of those that you already helped to win the battle and they got recycled back into source, that the ones under them that are often heavily programmed or full of ego or very invested, have lost their leaders and they're not going to go down without a fight. So is there vigilance about understanding that, as they, I'm sure, will keep resurfacing for quite a long time? Amir.
Well, I had the privilege of standing side by side with Apollymi and a number of very, very evolved beings. First things first, this lady is the real deal. It's a pleasant surprise in this convoluted world, finding people that are genuine. This is a blessing. There was a call. Usually, this is the nature of it. Source sends out a call. Who heeds the call? And so there are a number of beings that are not afraid. And they say, okay, we do. This correction wave, the way I perceive it and I can describe it, is the cleansing fire. Everyone is set ablaze. And then that which is out of balance, that is that which is distorted, which has become uncreational, is burnt away. And what remains is then set free to continue evolving, continuing their journey. Certain beings are so far gone, nothing remains. So the worst of the worst in this universe were they were exposed to this cleansing fire. Many of them, especially in the higher positions of care and responsibility, those that had caused major violations. And then in positions of elevation, violations have trickling effects down the line, making it more difficult for everyone. They were removed. Certain members of these beings had an excuse that we were not operating under free will. We had to. We were coerced. They threatened our species, our family, and so we were weak. And Source is gracious, and they were given another chance with this valid excuse of being coerced, operating out of free will. Many of them returned to their place of origin to heal, to pay for their mistakes, and to continue evolving. A very few saw a vacancy in positions of power and took up the positions. The past, let's say, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, there's been a very, very heavy and unpleasant wave of distortion and harassment, more noticeable by the most powerful beings. As far as I know, zero casualties. It's just being a nuisance.
Right.
So then a second wave was needed to deal with these guys. But every time they're becoming significantly smaller and smaller and smaller. The idea is to give every evolving shard of source consciousness a fair chance to evolve. Nobody's going to carry anybody. Weakness and failure is not rewarded. The same rules apply. Show valor, show willingness to evolve, and the conditions will fall into your lap. So it's a major, major correction, although nothing is perfect, but it's a major step in the right direction.
Thank you so much. And I know that both of you, people can listen to part one to understand the fascinating process of what it feels like in those fires. They explained that in part one. That was fascinating. Do you want to add anything, Apollymi, or do you more or less just agree with that? Okay. All right. So you regular subscribers who keep up are aware that Apollymi is the chosen creator soul who has a very important job, and that is of determining ascension evaluations for Earth, and often is the one that has to do the apocalypse for a failed experimental planet. So, Apollymi, I'd love for you to share because I think they're compassionate and need to happen. What you can share about the key changes regarding the new Ascension requirements from your last judgment, etc. Take people through a little bit because I want to put a fire on their butt to be self-motivated for their growth. Okay, so do you want to share that at all?
In 2012 was our first basically audit for the souls here on this planet to see how many people have gotten above 3.5 conscious level of evolution. And it was very small. The margin was very small. And we did another one in 2024, but we haven't even hit 10% yet. It's it's very, very like heart dropping and just that sinking feeling to see this happen. You know, people can blame society, they can blame, you know, our politics, they can blame all this stuff, but we're the only ones who actually have the ability to take the bull by the horns and do it regardless of our environment. I mean, we have people over in India who have nothing. You know, they're very poor, they don't have a lot, and yet they're still consciously evolving. You know, you are your own creator at this point and where you want to go. All of us super soldiers, we have had the worst treatment, you know, some of us more than others even, and we're supposed to all be genocidal psychopathic maniacs, you know, but we choose not to be because they cannot take away our full free will. They can only manipulate us for so much of a time. And some of us are like have evolved past like fourth conscious level and up. So there's really no excuse at this point. There's so much knowledge out there on, you know, for gurus and people who are teachers on how to do the ascension, you know, but you have to take the time to actually want it. And now is definitely the time. I mean, Rayleigh's always told me that not to freak you guys out, but time is running out. If you want to do this, you need to work up your game. It's time to step up and bring your A game. You know, if you don't do it, you're just going to get reincarnated back onto a 3.5 to 3 point planet. If you want something better for yourself, if you want to level up, start doing the work.
Thank you. And I'm a champion for humans, folks. So, but most, of course, we're probably preaching to the choir because you're intelligent. No offense. I know this sounds egotistical, but you're intelligent enough to watch the show and be dedicated to learning something that most people are programmed like, oh, it's too much, and go back to what they're eating. This is really important. There's nothing more important than your soul ascension, unless you, again, it's free will, so there's no judgment, unless you want to continue on. So everyone has so much to do, but lessen the distractions and focus on that, especially just start with neutrality. Okay, the other thing, though, that I felt was a very compassionate change, and I'm pleased to hear. And one of the reasons I was so pushy is the original agreement, from what I understand, was a diaspora, which means that a planet is, because our planet's already up at fifth density consciousness, and which is helping the humans, believe it or not. But from how I understand diaspora is the people and the planet all kind of have to ascend together. And talk about how that was just recently changed, because that's a little bit of a relief.
Okay, so it's not so much an agreement, it's just part of the protocol for the Starseed Council to see how evolution of a seed planet is going. This is considered a seed planet, it's an experimental planet. And occasionally it's about maybe 10 to 15%, depending on the experiment. Do we get diaspora? And what that is literally the consciousness of the planet and all of the inhabitants on it coincide together for what we call a unity ascension. So it is the same frequency ascension for the evolution of the consciousness of the planet along with all of its inhabitants as well. And ours has become a fifth density consciousness. And what that means is that a lot more energy of prana and memories of the universe are finally connected to the planet's consciousness itself. And when the planet is conscious, the inhabitants become a lot more conscious as well. It becomes easier. If you're trying to, in a rowboat, and you're trying to go up a white water rapid the wrong direction, that's kind of how it goes. You're trying to evolve while we have so much going against you. But when everyone works together, it calms the rapids down so you don't have to push as hard. And we are seeing a lot more people starting to raise in consciousness because the planet has evolved. But we have had a lot of people do it without it as well. So
Thank you, because a being can evolve at any time
mhm.
individually. You don't
Yeah.
have to wait for an ascension time.
Right. And don't think of it as a scary thing. Think of it as soul education and maturity. You are maturing into a more mature adult version of your soul. So instead of being sought at as a child, like you are seen as a child, you are going through puberty basically, not only through education, but certain aspects of your abilities and certain mindsets that you perceive the world as and can interact with them in a more neutral to delegate manner versus just overreacting.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Amir, anything you would like to add to that?
Well, I'd like to set that fire of passion and evolution
Mm.
within everyone who's hearing this. Come on, seriously. Coming out of the matrix, it requires 3 months of dedicated work, 20 minutes a day. There is no shortage of correct wisdom, for goodness sake. You can go one afternoon on eBay or Amazon and find the collective teachings of Buddhism, of the Hindu tradition. Why not? See, these resources are out there. They're really good. They're clean. So the ignorance is not an excuse when information is readily available, or for that matter, freely on YouTube. Just type and press enter, see what comes up. The rest you need to push. How far do you have to push? Honestly, the levels of trauma, overlays, distortions, incorrect belief systems, they're not infinite. You can break through them. Give yourself a few months and see how you like it. There are many souls that have come down here for the purpose of healing and education of others. They don't have skin in the game. They're here to help. You'll come across these wonderful beings daily if you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. So, there is no excuse if you're stuck in a rut. Push and wiggle, liberate yourself. So, if you like the status quo and you're continuing like a happy little zombie, I love you. You are so much more. You just have to see this. And so, lack of effort, laziness, this is not a good excuse. Ignorant is not a valid excuse. Sometimes you are forced into situations that is understandable. Sometimes you have things to do, commitments to fulfill, but these are not permanent. So, one of the laws of this universe, the law of liberation, if you reach for the light, it will reach back. You are not alone in this game. There are so many that are invested in your victory, from the beloved source of all things all the way down to little beings like me, all loving you, all supporting you, all vouching for you, and all ready to just point you that next step in the right direction. Don't trust us, trust yourself. Push. You have to exert effort to break through this thin layer of distortion that you are covered in. Evolve, because it's so glorious once you do.
It's even a program. Thank you so much. It's even a program because I hear everyone, the first thing out of everyone's mouth is, it is so overwhelming. So you can feel the program memes that are keeping you from piloting your own lives. And we know that everyone has every excuse possible with the kids and the this and the that and that, but it's a question of priority. And unfortunately, no one can do it for you. And we're talking this aspect of you. You have many aspects to your oversoul, but this aspect, if you wanted to keep going around on the hamster wheel, right? So Amir offers very valid techniques and cleansing and healings that will accelerate you. And Apollymi and I have provided early on shows on the 7 tiers of ascension, etc. So at this point, there's no excuse. And please share with people. So I was shocked myself, believe it or not. I was completely dumbed down. And I thought, like, when I first heard about Ascension, like, whatever. And I realized, I realize now that that's actually my primary mission. So, have a good sense of humor, laugh at yourself, but reprioritize. It's all about priority. It's not about differences, it's about priority. I'm going to prioritize going out in nature for 20 minutes, 15 minutes, and focus on the light of my being or whatever. Okay, so, all right, this is a little controversial, and I don't know, Apollymi, if you're comfortable sharing a little bit of that, but I had asked you in our long pre-conversation, I had mentioned that many secret societies, SSP groups, and whatnot have, of course, based on 100% free will, all their different agendas that they have invested massively in that they want to happen, and manipulation of timelines to promote things like 9/11, and to mostly to follow prophecies that were predicted by Nostradamus and many of these others. And some are invested in the second coming of Jesus Christ, whether it was faked by advanced blue beam technology or real. Others were promoting the Antichrist coming, who was going to be very charismatic at first and then fool everyone. So the bottom line, I was really surprised at your response, which was, do you remember what it was?
Well, okay,
The second coming and all that. Do you remember what you said?
yeah, so this is not so much Starseed Council stuff. I was also part of another council that kind of prioritizes the planet a little bit, and so I had to like sign contracts and everything. Um, there was supposed to be a war here on Earth between certain. It was supposed to be a free for all, was what it was supposed to be, and all these factions were going. Dimensional and ET factions were supposed to come down here and basically fight out territory after the seed pickups, and that's not really happening anymore. A lot has changed since then. There's a lot of factions who have backed out, who had signed those contracts. The second coming of Jesus is not going to be what everyone thinks it's going to be. If he does show up, one of them shows up. Um, it's not going to be like this huge thing and this huge war breaks out. I am pretty definitely sure that the war timelines are finally over. Thank God.
I think that's so important. And you said, because these societies really follow predictions, right? They're always using the advanced, looking glass stuff, all that. And you said, quote, many of these predictions were actually time locked
Yeah.
in timelines as probabilities to happen, included Jesus returning and all this. And I never thought of it that way. And as I understand it now, thank God, no pun intended, that we are, source said, enough's enough. We're on a positive timeline. And the other huge issue is when all the pirates came in for actually the last 400,000 years. But anyway, when they came in, tons of portals were used. And so my concern is that those portals are also being shut down. So there's very strict protective measures being put in, from what I understand. But the time locked in timelines, was like all these probabilities. So right now, so much is shifting is what I want the audience to get. So they don't get too attached to any particular thing. What they get attached to is self-love, respect for all others, neutrality, and raise their frequencies.
Right. Right. The timelines, like events that were locked, they're kind of like a roadmap of either time frame or certain powerful events that are supposed to happen before something else. But I've jumped so many timelines and have seen a lot of these skipped already. And so we are on absolutely brand new time streams. We don't know what's going to happen. The creators don't know what's going to happen. So again, that's why we brought up the whole thing of these prophecies aren't really going to be possibly fulfilled anymore, because we're on these new time streams. So don't wait for a sign of something to happen anymore. Like we are all on brand new sheets of paper, basically. So go draw your own destiny.
Yeah, no one's going to save you in that way or anything.
No, no. If you're waiting for the coming of Jesus to come down and save you, guys, it may never happen. Okay. So you have to take your fate into your own hands. And I know it seems scary, but you're not alone. There's people around you constantly in our community. So if you need guidance, there are plenty of teachers out there. If you need support, there are plenty of communities out there. You're not alone, but you are the only one who can pick yourself up and start this journey.
And is it true that when you reach a certain level of frequency, you could say where you're consciously making a decision to be a co-creator with reality, with source, and it's not favoritism, but you have more impact on creating the reality you want rather than giving the power away to others and sitting around going, oh gosh, I hope it doesn't end up in a shit show. You know what I mean? It's like people are not understanding who they are, and they're not understanding the power they have through their consciousness. Because folks, from my understanding from up high, your consciousness as individuals and as a human race, quote unquote, are constantly being monitored. And so by your consciousness raising out of child, fear-based things into at least teenager towards adult, you actually are going to be able to completely shift reality and receive assistance because you're no longer playing victim and they're no longer breaking free will laws of interfering with you. Does that, Amir, what would you like to say about that?
That's precisely correct. Well, we're inside a holographic reality. It is a virtual reality. And so, by necessity, every iota of our consciousness, the most minuscule thought patterns and emotions are monitored, but not for the purpose of control. Quite to the contrary, we are the ones in control. And so, the matrix, this holographic reality, is a reflection. What you emanate is reflected back. The reality is waiting and listening. Hey, what are your commands? And so you say, I manifest this and this and this, and it says, yes, your wish is my command, and it does it. And so it's very important to be aware of what we are emanating. And so the bondage of humanity is of the nature of the mind. So if we are brainwashed and distorted into thinking we are helpless, this is what we are manifesting. And so we are, for all intents and purposes, a single player in a virtual reality. As far as we are concerned, everyone and everything is a simulation. And so we have the ability to steer our own consciousness into possible branches of future realities where war doesn't exist. As far as it relates to us, there is no war. There is no hardship, there is no injustice. This is where we are steering to. So all these possible parallel realities exist, and it is our duty to steer towards ones that are more beneficial towards us. You reach a level when you see everything else around you, and you have the ability to emanate such powerful conviction that it overrides the distortion for others also. Not overstepping their free will, but demonstrating the true cause and effect and the laws of the universe, how it is done. So we should free our mind, meaning that we should identify those pieces of malware in our code, those little memes that you described that make you small. That is the mechanism of imprisonment.
Thank you so much, Amir. That was so important. Thank you so much. So let's get on to the topic of continuing with the Hell realms and what they actually look like and more. But first, like we did in part one, I have requested that Apollymi read out loud what's called the Verbal Golden Protection Contract to ensure that when and if we speak of any names of the Hell leaders, the four we spoke of in part one, they gave permission. Other names we're not going to use, but in general, how it works is when you say a name in your normal life, through light speak or instantaneous telepathy, it bings their text, so to speak, and they'll come. We don't really want that to happen. We want this to stay neutral, and so this is ensuring that everyone listening or watching, depending on if you're doing podcast or whatever, is completely protected, and that the beings that we talk about don't even know or they don't hear it. So, Pauline, do you have that in front of you? Please read the Golden Contract of Protection now for all listeners and those watching.
As the first princess of hell, I call upon source creation of the golden contract for this video recording that no names of beings, the conscious souls tied to them that is mentioned in this video via verbal, written thought, or light speak by any conscious being who watches, listens, receives, or participates in any way, shape, or form of any part of this video will summon, be heard, or recognized by the entities mentioned by true name or affiliation of name by anyone who speaks them from watching this video or knowledge received by it. No conscious being or AI is allowed to use this in any information in this video of any part against source creation entities mentioned in this video to their own benefit or change of any timelines in any plane, dimension, realm, universe, or omniverse or oververse. Let it be in all time and space and existence of the omniverse of Henovian source creation and throughout.
So be it. So let's start now with the subject of hell. And why don't you just start? We've covered the location, where it is, but give people a general sense of what hell is about, how it feels, kind of what it looks like, and then we'll get more into the specifics.
Okay. First of all, hell is located right outside of the Henovian barrier, and it was actually one of the first places that was ever created. It is a huge planetoid. I mean, huge. We're talking like universe size, several of them, planetoid. And in this planetoid and around it, there are several layers in the planetoid and on top that hell itself, most people really don't know a whole lot about it, which we're going to go into. But I do want people to keep in mind that the empire of hell actually expands out. Not only do you have a lot of the void area around this planetoid that is considered territory of hell, but we also have a lot of the lower domains as well, including what most people will call the fiery abyss, the shadow plane, and the plane of void. And all of these are actually governed and ruled by the royal family of hell, who are avatars of Source, obviously, for the Immortal Seven. So the planetoid itself has an like on top of the planetoid is cascaded with a beautiful paradise. We're talking tropics, we're talking snow, we're talking, if you like snow, we're talking, any a vast terrains of comfortability for many different species and many different types of souls. And these areas we'll get into more later, so I'm just giving you guys a general outlay. So there's water areas, forest areas, desert areas, tropic areas, just all sorts of weird, cool stuff. And when you go into the planetoid, because there are doors there that are heavily guarded, you start hitting some of the familiar layers that most people will know about. So when you go down, you have kind of a general vast area where like souls start to basically come from the river on into the realms of hell itself for the planetoid. These are the ones that come from like the river of Styx, basically. And beyond that, you have a vast amount of um, territories, kingdoms, uh, areas dedicated to just housing, especially for royal members. And of course, like you can go into the lower planes of the planetoid itself and go into the correctional facility area. And then there's a couple other things from there.
Wow.
Once you get past the planet, you start getting into like the abyssal realms, the shadow realms, and the realms of void. And every single realm that, and these aren't planets, people, these are like planes of existence is more of like a general term. So, we exist on the fourth plane of existence for physics. They would exist on the lower planes of existence for physics. So it's just part of the physics planes of outside of Hinova. And every single one of these places has their own species, their own natural plant life or animals, and their own environments.
Wow. So you said it was high physics because it's so close to Source's
Mhm.
original. So that means that all the abilities, I mean, all the beings, vast amount of beings, right, um, have abilities there, I would think. Do most of them have a lot of abilities?
A lot more than most people here. It depends on the creatures and it depends on the species. You have your normal stuff of being able to manipulate energy to do certain things, and not every species can do everything. There's some species that may only have telepathy and have the ability to manipulate their chakras. Ooh, excuse me, hiccup. Their chakra systems. Um, but they lack the ability to create fire or to, speak the voice of wind and make wind, or to have telepathy. So it really just depends, but it's what makes us all unique.
It makes it really unique because most of us didn't have a clue there were so many realms. And what that separates the realms is it kind of like a dimension or
Mhm.
density or frequency. So you have to like slightly shift. Like, is it as drastic as us going from third to fourth dimension or something like that?
Yes, and these, because the area that they're in, the frequencies are so abundant, evolution of consciousness is a lot easier over there. And like manipulating energy is just so much easier over there. It's you don't have to have so much strain like you do here. Earth is very low density, but it's also for the realm that we're in of dimension of physics, but it's also very prana starved. and hell is not. Hell is outside of our universal bubble. So it has way more physics, way more prana, way more life energy, and it just doesn't, it's not as hard. But you can, if a creature over there manages to learn how to shift dimensions, we're talking physics dimensions. So not so much evolution of consciousness itself, because that is different than shifting dimensions physically. They can interact with the other, dimensions that are higher. If you're a creature of the void, um, not mentioning any names, they can shift their energies up to interact with the plane of fire, or the plane of light, or these other dimensions.
Oh my gosh, it's so fascinating. Who knew that you can go to hell for vacation? I'm like, what? Okay, so tell us a little bit about, okay, so you said the kind of the, I guess the nicer part is on the surface of the planetoid. Is that the vacation spot?
So the surface of the planetoid of the planet's called Hell. Um, there, some of the immortals aren't very how do I put this? They're not very inventive on wordplay,
Yeah.
but we had the ability to make the top part of the planetoid like very, very pretty. And we wanted that differentiation because there are a lot of beings who just need that nice vacation spot. And we're talking, this is the first thing that was ever really created. You got to keep that in mind. So there's not a lot of souls, there's not a lot of planets in existence at this point, or universes. So the top of this planet is something that was new at the time. And this is the vacation spot for souls who are just waiting, basically. They're having a rest period before they get reincarnated.
Wow. Okay, so but what's okay, I have a heat thing. I don't do well with heat, so like it's not my first thing. Like, I'm gonna go to the surface of hell for a vacation. That's not my I have too much Viking ancestry. So so what is what's the temperature? What I mean, if I would imagine the reptilian or warmer species or something love to go there, but what's the milieu? How do I mean, are we talking really high temperatures like
The
the myths tell you?
the temperature, the top part of the planet varies because we do have snowy regions. We have some cooler regions. So you can go from like, well, obviously like below zero all the way up to like a tropical 130, 120.
Okay.
When you start going into the subterranean realm part of it, um, going into the planetoid, some areas are a little bit cooler than others. But hell has always been a comfortable. I like the heat. So hell has always been a comfortable between like 85, 90 at a low to about like 120 the further you start going in towards the core area. So
Okay. Okay. And folks, this is really interesting. I just didn't have a clue about how it was, the architecture of it. But everything you're saying makes sense because as we travel through space, including Earth herself and the moon and the Mars, so many are mined out, and most of the population is living inside. And different civilizations and strata, and usually the more well, like on our case, the humans are living on the surface mostly, but there's so it sounds like this is a similar kind of idea. You're on a planetoid and you've got a whole different realms in, and then you have the surface vacation. I mean, simply put, is that kind of the thing?
yeah, and we have the correctional facility more towards the core of the planet just because there's a lot more security. So, it's harder to get out of the planet. And it's not like people are escaping or anything. It's more of keeping entities out to keep the souls safe that are in.
Okay. And does the you may not be able to say this, it might be a top secret thing, but just like we have crystalline cores for the center of our Earth planets, what do they have? Some huge self-made fire thing going on?
That I don't know. I've never actually been to the center of it, so
Oh, do you know him?
it,
It's different from the solid or quasi-solid crystalline structures that is applied to this flow or this direction of flow of consciousness. It would be more liquid light, contained dynamic flow of energy. The best way I could describe it is encapsulated liquid light. We would have an analogous to this as a photon. This is how light travels in this universe. So if I may continue some of my understanding of the whole thing,
Yes.
location-wise. So imagine this is a description of all there is.
Mm.
So the tree of life, that's a beautiful analogy for just not just the universe, but also I like how my eyes are peeking through. I'm going to make a mask of this. So as above, so below. So there are two flows, a bidirectional flow of consciousness evolution. Earth would be in this flow, kind of here, base of the tree. So we're denser. We're not completely halfway there yet. And this would be down here. This would be the location of hell at the base of the tree. Now, there's two directions of flow of consciousness. So imagine we've got this background, and now removing the tree, which is describing the structure, we've got source on both sides. So if I fold this over, we get this full circle that is the source of all things.
Okay.
So the flow of consciousness from roots to branches, that is also evolution of consciousness. But then the reverse flow going down through the void and to this extreme, this will reach source two. And so if you look at this now side to side, we've got the two pillars described in Kabbalah, the light and the void. It is all source, both divine. And so there may be stages when one reaches this level of evolution to source at this point or this point, and then there's the periphery. So this vortex of continuous flow, which is three-dimensional, this goes on. This cycle is what we are here to enhance and experience. The whole purge that we spoke about is removing blockages from this divine flow. But it doesn't just go this way, it also goes this way. So this is also described in our understanding of the physical universe. Some just say there are 12 dimensions, but if we take into account the other side, so we've got dimension positive 12, but we have negative 12, matter, antimatter, light, void. That would be a more realistic and holistic understanding of the way things are set up. So this realm of hell, very vast, is kind of an important one. Down here, the equivalent up here would be the realm of primordial light. So it is the equivalent to the other polarity, neither good, neither evil. We've got benevolent beings of the void, and we have degenerate angels, and vice versa. Just because of location, it doesn't say anything. It's all part of the flow. No matter where you are part of the beloved source, and you are loved and you are respected. You just got to keep moving. Keep it moving.
Oh, that is so beautiful because it's combining so many teachings and having the vision of the tree of life, and that what you clear up in people's bodies is the flow, the Kundalini and the Earth Bridge and the Star Bridge. So there's a common theme here. And what Apollymi will be sharing next is the rivers. And so the rivers feel like more like a water ley line conduit, energetic, kind of like what you were saying, liquid, uh, in a way. And we're going to have her explain that. But the fact that I love the image of that hell exists in the root section.
even though these realms are in different like physics than the planetoid of hell itself, where the royal family, the governing avatars of source that are running the afterlife program basically and governing these areas, the realm of shadow, void, and the fiery abyss realms, they all have their own head ruler. They all have their own multiple kingdoms, their own hierarchies of doing things, but they all are part of a greater council, but they're still all ruled under the empire of hell as well. They all have contracts with keeping the peace and having trade and knowledge and all this other stuff. So I just wanted to clarify that before we move on. So
Thank
they all have to follow and abide by the rules that hell sets down.
you. Okay, that's very interesting. Okay, so let's talk about afterlife concerns and options. So how does a cell get to specific locations for their afterlife once they leave their body? And what is the purpose of the afterlife reapers? Let's start there.
Right? So once a soul leaves its physical body, it is the Reaper's job to find, okay, because everything is recorded, um, and like most of the timelines are streamlined, but they're not anymore. This is gonna get tricky.
In the Akashic records recorded, you mean?
Yes and no.
Oh,
Some of the timelines were already pre-scripted.
okay. No, 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 no. I just, when you said everything's recorded,
Right.
recorded in what people are going to want to know or how?
Like it's just conscious recording because this is the several reset. So there are like specific dots on the timelines where people have died.
Okay.
And so that's pre-recorded basically is what they say. And then this is where free will comes into action, where say you get into a plane crash and a voice pops into your head and it says you can either choose to live or you can choose to die and carry on your soul's afterlife whatever at this time. You have the free will to choose to live or pass on. So this is what we call pre-recorded fate or pre-recorded time stamping. Doesn't necessarily, you are your own creator for your outcome at this point. No one else is responsible but you. And so if you choose to die, if you choose to leave, this is how a reaper knows that you are going to deceased. And there is a contract. Euronymous, who is in charge of all this, ends up assigning a Reaper to this person. So if they decide to die, that Reaper is going to be there by their side. The Reapers might disguise themselves as a lost loved one, your dog, your a family member that you love very much, your favorite angel. Sometimes they'll even show up in Reaper form if you're that kind of person who loves that and is not afraid.
Gothic style.
Gothic style. They try to make it as comfortable as possible. Each Reaper is an individual, conscious soul for the most part. Um, Amir has mentioned before that they are AIs. I have not ran into one, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. And you can become a Reaper by actually signing a contract with Euronymous if you want. It's 10,000 years. You get paid. It's a lot of hard work, but are to come to you and help guide you. They are to protect your soul from any other being who is going to attack you. Uh, you communicate with them where you want to go. If you don't know where you want to go for your afterlife, say atheist dies and they're like, well, I don't believe in heaven and I don't believe in hell, but I don't know where to go. The Reaper will allow you to decide, or sometimes they'll even, if you ask for it, they will show you several options of where you can go. Doesn't necessarily mean you're getting in, because sometimes there's requirements for the VIP boxes in certain religions. Um, so, certain rules that were supposed to have been followed when you're alive. If you happen to have followed them when you're alive and you get audited for the position, you get to go into that area if you so choose. If it doesn't, well, most people will actually be taken to the realms of hell because it's a neutral zone. It's not just for people who have done wrong things. That's the correctional facility. We'll get into more of that later. When you decide where you want to go, or you basically end up going to the realms of hell, not necessarily for a bad thing. It's just the neutral zone where souls go when they don't have anywhere else to go. And you basically like it's kind of like teleportation a little bit. They don't really take a whole lot of a long time to get you to those places. Um, Now, a lot of people will end up running from the Reaper because A, they get scared, or the Reapers are not perfect people. They are entities of their own, so sometimes they still have to learn their job. Um,
They don't call them grim for nothing.
yeah, right? Yeah. I was gonna say the only thing that's grim about them usually is their sense of humor, but a little dark. It's a Reaper joke. But the souls that end up running away from their reapers are no longer protected. They choose to stay stationary in the dimension that they're in, and they have basically ran from Source's protection. We're talking about Source creation. Source creation, the avatars of Source creation made the reapers. So you run from Source and you've denied it, basically. This is why a lot of terminology is like go into the light or whatever. If you run from the Reaper, you've denied Source. So your fate is in your own hands at that point. Um, if you don't have a soul protector to call upon, you know, or someone that you trust that is going to
Jesus or Michael or whatever, like that.
whomever. There's a lot of ETs.
Deities, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Anubis or whatever.
right. Um, so basically at that point you're a free entity to do what you will. You can stay as a what most people would know as a ghost or an unseen and go about doing your own thing. If you manage to learn to manipulate physics, so be it, and kind of meddle around with people or just watch them. Souls who are enlightened who decide to separate their own freedom, uh, they're going to be able to do more, but in order to properly get reincarnated, you have to go through a deity who has signed with source creation, so you can sign, or teamed up with source creation with the golden contract of having the responsibility to reincarnate, take in souls and house them and get their rehabilitation done as much as possible before they send them out. If you don't do this and you decide to inhabit a body, it's technically it's kind of a loophole illegal, but not really at the same point, because if you manage to connect yourself like that, good for you. You're starting to learn physics. However, it takes up a body of a soul that was paired up well with that body, because when you get reincarnated, you get put into a body that is meant for you, that
A
that
lot of
has the
planning.
ability. Yes, that has the ability to house the energy of your soul. We're getting a lot of you know, these children with like disabilities and stuff. Part of it's the environment, and the other part is that souls are just getting crammed down here without going through the reincarnation process. And it degrades the body very quickly. So your soul basically, energy is basically ripping the physical DNA apart on a very small scale, and it causes a lot of issues, especially at conception. Um,
Okay,
so
that's hold on a sec. That's a fascinating thing that it'll take a different offshoot. But let's backtrack just a little. This is really important. Okay, so I'm being kind of a little lighthearted here. So I kind of know that death isn't real, and I cross over, and all of a sudden, some good-looking hunk or dog or whatever comes over. Right now, is it smart for me to go? Are you qualified as a reaper and have taken the oath, and are you disguised, or who are you? Like, in other words, I want people really to get that they have to ask, they have the right to ask, and if they want to direct their life, this is what this education is for, to tell you that you have these options, and if you go by default, you're going to be a little bit more risky if you ask them, right? Because they're going to appear, like, I've studied over 300 cases of near death experience, and they go, oh, my family comes meets me, or my favorite dog comes meet me. So are you saying that that actually happens, or are you saying that they're disguised as a benevolent guide slash reaper? But it seems like the first thing you want to ask is, I request for, if you have a particular connection, are you such and such? Have you taken the karmic oath of Reaper? And, and, or nothing personal. I'd like, you know, you might want to mention a couple of beings who took the karmic oath so people know, but Anubis or this or that or this or
yeah.
that. But it seems like that's the first thing you want to try to remember. Am I wrong in this?
No. So all Reapers who have actually signed a contract with Euronymous, the Father Reaper of Hell, uh, have signed golden contracts. So if you ask them, "Hey, are you one of Euronymous' Reapers, the Father Reaper of Hell?" they have to tell you truthfully. They are not allowed to lie to you, even if they are taking the form of your mom, your dad, your dog, whatever. They do that to make you more comfortable so that you're not going to run away. Because the soul that runs away is kind of like gunk in the cogwheels of the whole universe, because if you're not getting reincarnated properly and going through your karmatic debt and going through, the proper body soul link up for your reincarnation, it actually helps ruin the whole working system of a functional omniverse, or oververse, I should say.
Wow. They're like going rogue in a
Yeah,
weird
pretty
way.
much.
And so, yeah. So, oh, that's so fascinating. Okay. So you are telling me that these thousands and thousands and thousands of near-death cases that are hearing and everyone was talking about, where they're asked whether or not they go back. I thought some of that was the light death traps, but you guys have gotten rid of all of those now, right?
Most of them are actually gone. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we'll check with Amir. Okay, so now we don't have to talk about that. That was a big concern. So now, in from here out, I want people to be educated and know the first thing to ask. And everyone has said, "Oh, my dog showed up, my cat showed up, Michael showed up," whatever affinity they have, right? And I'm like, boy, it sure gets around. So you're saying that most of the time, that's an actual reaper from hell that is making you comfortable, but you should still always check, right?
I would say that it's a reaper from source, not necessarily from hell. Because even though Euronymous is stationed in hell, because he's outside of the Hanova, so that he can, deal with the souls and outside of Hanova, um, they're still technically from source. Like
Okay,
they're sent by source
good.
to
I'm personally more comfortable with that. Okay, okay. So you just say, are you sent from source of prime source creator of all that is?
no,
And
you can
are you a qualified, like, you will discuss this, but have you taken the karmic oath from source?
basically, all you have to say is, did you take the Karmetic Oath from Euronymous, the Father Reaper, who is stationed in hell. And
That's a lot for them to remember.
I know. Well, it's a lot for them to remember, but their soul has a bigger mindset brain.
Okay. Okay, folks. So that's the first thing you want to do. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And
Because
they cannot lie to you. They cannot lie to you. They will say yes, and then they will actually bear the mark of Euronymous.
where is it on their hand or somewhere?
They get to
Astrally.
place it wherever they want to, but the mark will be the same.
Okay. All right. And our soul will recognize that. Know what that mark is. We're not allowed to be told.
They should recognize it. If not, they can always ask Source to help them with that.
Okay.
I don't want to put the mark out
Right.
because a lot of people will start copying it, and I'm not okay with that. Um,
So what percentage do these reapers automatically show up, or for the fractal reapers or whatever? And what percentage is it someone playing games, being sneaky?
so
That if you don't ask, you can get screwed.
here's the big kicker. If you are reincarnated by a deity that has the Book of Life, a Reaper will always show up when you die. If for some reason you did not get reincarnated because you're not in their census, when you die and you go to an afterlife, it is taking census. It's taking a number
Oh,
of
oh yeah, you'll talk about that at the gates of hell, which is a trip. Okay, right?
yeah. So they're
Okay,
taking a census. They're taking a number of the souls. Of been like, okay, this soul died. This soul is now transported over here. Okay, that one's accounted for. We got this. This
yeah,
consciousness is existing. If
right.
you don't do that, we don't have a census. And so what happens is you're lost in the paperwork. You were still basically like all this stuff. It's very complicated.
Well,
So
so
what
you're a rogue soul, and they got to figure out what to do with you. So they probably default you to hell in the.
Yeah, so you get defaulted basically if you don't know where you're going. It's very complicated, but I'm telling you guys, please, when you die, please go to a deity that has uh the karmatic oath to reincarnate you properly.
So we can say, have you taken the karmatic oath directly from source of all that is? Like we can just say that if we don't remember.
Yeah, and then to be a reaper and to be able to just say to be a reaper because it's actually a specific
Okay,
title.
and a reaper. And so if they say no, go, someone is talking with you right now.
You're standing right here, and I'm getting the fatherly look of like,
So if they, okay, this is important education. Where else are they going to find out all this? This is a trip. Okay, so this is rule one. Now, if they say no, do you go next? And then you call in who you want? Or most of the time they're going to say yes, right? Yes, I
yeah, like,
am.
unless someone's messing with you, they're gonna say yes.
Okay.
And then you just go with them.
Now, do you automatically go with them, or say you want to return to your ET home planet, or blah, blah, blah? Do you always, the first step, go with them? Like,
So what happens is they show up, you ask them if they're a real Reaper, and then sorry.
they're giving you instructions.
They're also like tinkering with something that happened earlier.
Oh,
So what happens is you die, you ask them if they're a true Reaper, they say yes, and then the Reaper's going to ask you where you want to go. If you don't have an answer, you can ask them, I don't know, show me options. They'll show you options of a few afterlives. Whether you make it into their other deities' afterlives or not, that's up to the deity for the rules that have to be abided before you can go in there. If you don't, then you go to the realms of hell for a neutral judgment. And then after that, you will be placed either in the correctional facility of hell for your karmatic debt. And your punishment is based on your karmatic debt points, basically. And we've talked about the point system before.
mhm.
Once you get once you get reformed, as you would say, to their first station, of karmatic cleansing, then you have the ability to either go into the soul well for your soul to rest, which gives you the perfect afterlife. If you don't want to interact with anyone, if you just want to be alone and just kind of like float in a prana bath of whatever to think everything over, you can go in there and be let out at any time you want. You just knock on the glass and be like, hey, I want out now. And then,
And you have to ask.
yeah, and you have to ask. Like you have to ask to get in there and you have to ask to get out. But you're not trapped in there by any means. Um, or your second option is to you will go to the surface of the planet of hell and go onto your vacation. There's not a lot to do up there. It's like living in the pioneer
Boring.
days. Okay, there's not a lot of entertainment up there.
So weird. So weird.
Like there's singing, there's dancing, there's stacking rocks, but it's kind of like camping. Nothing's gonna hurt you. You're not gonna poison yourself or anything, but um it's meant to be boring, so you want to get reincarnated faster. And
So
then
it's motivate. This is a positive motivation, not the nefarious one with the light traps where they were forcing you incarnating, where you didn't have enough chance to heal and reevaluate. This is a positive motive for for mostly reincarnation is always the way that souls evolve. And what you're asking for and becoming educated enough about is to know your options. So you can go, no, I prefer to go over there, or I want to go to fifth dimension. Do I qualify for fifth dimension over here? Or, right?
right. And any deity who has taken the karmatic oath of source to reincarnate a soul um will place you in the proper placement. If you want to be born on a 5th D planet, but it's in a 3rd D universe, you have that option. If you want to be in a 5th dimensional universe on, with a nice planet on like a 6D planet, because you're almost there, you have that option. They will place you accordingly and in a body that's going to suit your soul so you don't have as much physical disabilities or mental disabilities. So,
Okay, that's all really important. So again, you can be your own, if you're educated, you can be your own pilot.
mhm,
This is the whole
yes.
point of these shows, folks. Okay. Rather than just like, okay, oh, you look like a cute doggy, I'll follow you or whatever, because most
Well,
most people, there seems to be these made creation realms because believe me, I'm an expert at near death experience stories. Okay. So there's always these same kind of things. Oh, I'm in a healing center, or they first take him to a park so they feel comfortable. So there seems to be those locales and where people can adjust, right?
right.
Okay.
Well, and the other thing is that if you so choose to see your family, say you have loved ones that you want to say goodbye to, you have 1 week, one week, and the Reaper will stay with you if you have a Reaper to be able to see your family, see your funeral, and say goodbye to everybody, before you end up fully passing over to go to wherever
Well,
it is
most
that you want to
funerals
go.
aren't 1 week. Now, question, this is another thing very important for people to
You can
understand.
choose to leave earlier if you want, but they give you a stretch of 1 week.
Yeah, but 1 week in hell is equal to what on earth?
No, 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 no. Week of or like your time of where you are dying,
From
because yeah, because
That's
it's
not
usually,
long.
yeah,
That's
because
not
like
long. I mean, if every, wow, I understand it different because I can feel people overhead at their own funerals, even if it's an hour, even if it's a month later. They're really curious about that. So, um, I mean, 1 week is like nothing. Are we talking about going back? Okay, here's the other thing people will want to know. As a soul, when they cross over, are they in an astral form, light body? Does it look the form they take? Is it a circle? Like, they're going to want to know, like,
so you can request to come back to your funeral if you so wish.
okay. Because I
But the Reaper's only going to stay with you for 1 week. They've got other stuff to do.
oh yeah, okay.
So you can always request to come back for a funeral. Like, say you die in another country and you want to, you want to be buried elsewhere.
Well, do you have to go back or can't you just observe it? Doesn't all higher dimensions trump lower dimensions and you can watch and see the stuff?
Well, if you want to, but if your soul wants to be there,
Oh,
as long as you are not in,
overrated.
yeah, as long as you are not in the correctional facility,
Uh-huh.
you can actually go and see your funeral. If you're in the correctional facility, once your 1 week is done, and then you go and then you end up in the correctional facility, you're not going to be able to come out to go to your funeral.
Okay.
Just to let people know. So,
This is all fascinating. I mean, there's nowhere else they're going to find this. This is a trip. Okay, so this is such a gift. And Amir, I know you've been patiently waiting and you have tons of information about this. So, um, okay, before we get into the rivers and what goes on, is that pretty much the first steps they need to try to remember to do when they cross over? Ask the
Uh,
questions. Okay, so
okay. So
Amir?
Earth is primarily a school, a very, very tough school. On the physical aspect, there's the evolution of the human vessel. And then for the souls that enter, there's also the possibility to evaluate themselves, meaning if there is any weakness in their structure, they become aware of it and then they can plan accordingly, whether it's on Earth or other places, how to continue evolving. Evolution is a continuous thing. Earth is like a school. The Reapers are like the school bus. There's other beings that would be responsible for bringing you back into body. So let's just call these the Ubers of the incarnation process. Okay, yeah, a Reaper comes in, whether it's a hot guy or a hot girl or a pet or whatever. Yep, they do their job. They take you back and forth. Certain souls will come to the realization that they actually do not like Earth anymore. And they say, you know what, I don't want to come back here. And you're off the school bus. You say, to hell with this school, I'm going somewhere that's a little bit more nice to me. That's also a possibility. Now, with the distortion in the reincarnation matrix, Earth became inflated. Way too many souls because the process was harvesting energy. And so now this swelling or inflation is going to naturally go down, meaning when people realize, oh, we're not stuck here. You know what? I want to go back to Arcturus. They're so nice there. Or I want to go to the Pleiades or go there, here or there, wherever. There's going to be a very rapid and sharp decline in human population in the next century.
In Earth, on Earth.
On
Yeah.
Earth, yeah, they don't want to come back, and so be it. Now, many of these near-death experiences, they are part of the program, right? So you're in, and it's like let's say, electrical dryer for laundry. You keep spinning until you're dry. And so those images, those experiences of cause and effect, sensing what you have done upon another, good or bad, to other sentient beings, life forms. If you watered a tree, you experience that euphoria of that thirsty tree. Or if you've hurt an animal, you feel its pain. That's part of the evolution of the soul. But when you want out, you're out. Now, Apollymi mentioned this process of rehabilitation or neutralization, right? You're not just going to be let loose like a rogue cancer cell upon the cosmos. That is irresponsible. So there are many mechanisms to make sure that you're not carrying any density, that if you go to another domain and enter different types of educational program and experience, you're not going to cause harm or just explode the whole process and the system.
Not going to be a
Uh,
virus.
yeah, yeah. So all in all, I agree with what is said. Very complex. There is no cruelty, though. I want to emphasize this. Even though many experience suffering, it's kind of the belief system that we signed into. Some are more goth, some are more fairy and rainbow and unicorn. So the nature of these experiences may vary. Some enjoy warfare. Look at the Vikings, Valhalla. What
Oh,
do they do morning to night? Slash and chop each other up, and then they drink and
great.
feast, and they do. Hey, whatever floats your boat. It's
Basically, you still have 100% free will. Okay,
absolutely,
that's
at
really
least from
important.
this point or onwards. So
Even
that
if you've
whole
done a lot
process
of dark
of
stuff on Earth.
well, the infiltration into the natural reincarnation grids was making sure that just they wanted numbers.
Yeah.
More numbers, more energy. That's no longer a thing. Those idiots are gone.
My God,
So
this is
naturally, like the body uh, uh, dealing with inflation, and slowly you get back to a healthy flow and a healthy status. This is where we're going through right now.
well, this is so important. So important. Okay. So ask, check with the Reaper, whoever shows up. Are you a fake dog to make me feel comfortable? Are you this? Whatever. Okay, I'll hang out with the dog for a week. Okay, all right. Have some idea in education before you cross over is the whole idea of this, because most people are just going to go, "Oh, I hope I don't go to hell. I don't think I will. I'm a pretty good person, so I'm just going to ask to go to heaven." So heaven's like the quote, the top of the tree in a way, but I don't even think they know what that is. Like a lot of these park light things are made to think they're in heaven. So it was part of like this matrix station or something, right? As a transition until they get bored enough or go, sorry, I need
Or
to.
they grad, or
Are they
they graduate, or they graduate. The soul is happy. So we've got beings come in. They want to assume the mantle of prime creator. Coming in, they experience all that could possibly go wrong down here. Goodness knows we're excellent example of it. They know what not to do. Okay, that's good. And then they also take samples of the, let's say, the design of the human body, the mighty human. So they want to use this design in their universe. So all in all, the soul is satisfied. So layers of amnesia are removed, and the soul remembers, oh, this is who I am. This is what I contracted to come into this machine for. Earth is one of these machines. So you kind of go through, it's like until you get it right. And at any point, we must remember there's the button you push and you just get ejected out, granted that you are neutralized and nullified. You don't hold polarity or trauma, so that you can try experiencing your luck somewhere else. But if you basically tap out, you don't get the green beret. Uh,
tap out
yeah,
meaning?
you see, I quit.
Oh,
You can quit, but you're not going to be rewarded. No, you have the long walk of shame out of the gates of the barracks.
mm.
You don't get the badge and the green beret. You're not a commando. You haven't survived Earth during the Dark Ages. You tapped out. So you probably want to remove that from your soul CV. Yeah.
Okay, now how you brought up another point. This is so awesome. I think these are this is gonna be kind of a long series, is because so much stuff is changing now. All the stuff that applied before. This is why we're having this, folks. It's like there's new rules, there's new stuff. So when you cross over, how quickly is the amnesia dropped and what depends on that?
Should I go?
Yeah.
Okay. It's
Okay.
not. It's not total. It's not total. That requires an internal processing. The key is not outside in the system. The key is always inside. So whether you do this in a human form, following, let's say, what I'm aware of, the process of the Kujikiri, and then connecting to the void, and then going through the bond process of rainbow body, and you say, you know what, to hell with this, I'm out and I'm taking the body with me. So that's an internal process in human form. This is also available out of human restriction, out of body. You always hold the key. Now, how much of it you wish to access and how much of remembering is conducive to your success in this school, in this mission, it depends totally on you. There is no compulsion. And so, until fairly recently, there was a great distortion in this whole process. It became wonky, it became out of control. But now this is being corrected. due to the efforts of many, many wonderful, wonderful souls. So it's back to normal. You can tap out. Please
Much more
don't. You've gone through
benevolent
hardship.
and free will, but it does
Yeah.
depend on your education, on what you know and what. Yeah. Okay. Apollymi, back to you. Doesn't she look gorgeous today, folks? Okay. Um, do you agree with what Amir says and anything to add to that?
No, I think he covered everything pretty well.
I
You
thought,
know, like it's like remembering your past lives and stuff while you're down here. We have all this trauma, all this technology that's negative energy and stuff, and we're still able to do it. So it really just depends on you on how much you want it and how educated you are on how to get it. And no one has the excuse of not knowing how to do it because there are thousands, even on YouTube. You can find this stuff on YouTube
right.
of how to actually retrieve your soul memories and everything. And it's hard and it's a lot of dedicated work, but the
Okay, so if you're very evolved, do you still do their whole Reaper thing? Like I'm kind of like going, okay, what is the majority of people come to when they hit the other side?
even if you are like a 12th tier dimensional being, you're going to know that the reincarnation process is very important to the system of keeping everything flowing correctly. It's responsibility. It is responsible to get to call a reaper. And on that note, if you are reincarnated, you immediately get a reaper, is what I said earlier. And that still stands true. If you got reincarnated because one of these negative factions shoved you into a body, you have the right to call a reaper. One's just not going to be assigned to you at your death. So you have the right to be like, Euronymous, please send me a reaper. I need help and guidance for the other side, and a reaper should be able to come to you and help you guide.
Okay.
Again, if you run away from a reaper, there are certain things you can do. You can recall one, which I recommend. It's cheaper.
Oh my God, that is the best story too that's coming up about that. Okay, before we get into the rivers, well, we might not get that far today, but
That's fine.
this is so fun and so important. Um,
If I may add something,
yes.
earthbound souls, because even during the millennia of distortion, the hundreds of thousands of years, many humans knew there was something wrong. And they would see the image of the puppy or the hot boy or girl or whatever, and they would say, you know what, screw this, I'm going this way. And so there's a large population of disembodied souls, and there are those assigned now to these poor lost ones. The rescue crew. The image is from the movie Titanic. The Titanic has gone down, and these poor bastards are floating in the freezing water, and then there's a lifeboat. Is there anybody out there? So there's always a way back, but things will slow down. Before you know it, you're a sad, lonely ghost that's sitting in a crumbling structure. Nobody knows of you, nobody cares of you. So, this being in this flow of divine evolution, this is the most joyful and efficient way of experiencing everything. You may now go out of the river to parts where it's closer to the coast and things are slow, but then you can always get your way back into this divine flow of consciousness evolution. There are those that are taking up this task because the population of ghosts is greater than the population of living by many, many, many orders of magnitude.
That's what I heard. There were so many fractured and lost and even back, I didn't do the hippie thing, but most of my friends did, and they were doing things and said, my job's to rescue souls. I got to find them and help them go to the other side and stuff. I mean, so many psychics do that. So it got really junked. It's kind of like all the satellites out in space. It's a good metaphor for that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Same thing. It's like we got too much
Space junk.
fray going on. Uh, So that these are such important pieces, and it's very hopeful, folks. Things are just, the theme is clean up, clean up, clean up, reformation, get on track. All those that did way beyond the golden laws and the laws of the universe that caused a lot of this issues are now getting so still probably a couple hundred years before this whole thing, but at least it's exciting to know this. And that's why the afterlife laws are all different now, almost in a certain way, right? Like, before, if you don't have the death traps, you don't have to worry about that. You just do the Reaper thing. Okay, so go ahead, Apollo.
I also wanted to say that during the war that has happened for the war on prime source creation, that everyone got deleted for taking part of that, who was going against source. There has been some cleanup here on this planet as well, and if anyone who is a subscriber who has listened to all of our stuff, I said that some of the Reapers have been blocked by certain negative factions here on the planet. That has been removed now, especially since we got the soul traps ousted and destroyed. So everyone has the ability to call Reapers in now, and hopefully we can get some of these souls who wish to leave Earth out of here. I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that.
That is so important. Okay, now you have to share. Okay, so um, so we're there, and your Reaper shows up, and we now understand that there's these currents that go, and it's, I guess you could call it like a heart pumping of source or something, like veins and arteries and this and that and this and that. And that represents kind of the omniverse. The tree of life actually represents the whole omniverse.
It's all in scale, as above, so below. So think of that tree of life as the general shape of the fractal.
Okay. Okay.
Whether it's the light body of a human applied to my energy structure, or whether it's the structure of dimensions and densities above and below, light and void, or whether it's the general way. I'll go back to the analogy that Apollymi used, the apple, the seven apples around the central location of source, from where there's a greater expansion of the fractal. So this seems to be one of the fundamental um, designs of existence. It applies.
So are there
Uh,
just portals too everywhere?
Portals everywhere.
Portals everywhere. So it's just portal, boop, 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 different fractals, different energies,
That,
different.
such is the nature of consciousness. We're not local. Becoming localized is the property of more denser realities, especially physicality. As soon as you pop a little bit out of it, third, fourth dimension, I mean, look at what we do in our astral, in our dream time.
Mhm.
We go everywhere. You pop a little bit higher, you realize that you have access to the boundaries of one universe. And then, especially when you go a little bit higher, become multi-universal, you have access to the whole thing. And so that kind of knowledge cannot be contained in the human brain. And so, therefore, knowledge without utility is a burden. We
Mhm.
just need so much to succeed in what we are here to do. But generally speaking, there are no restrictions, there are no secrets, there is nothing covered. We have access to all of it. And so, what do we need to build something beautiful? We need a number of ingredients and a certain process, and that's it.
Okay. Really cool. Okay, now, so we've got the layout, the architecture, the benevolent overall rules, no matter what your training is or whatever else. Always ask. Reaper shows up. If you have a preference, state that. Learn your options.
So when a person dies, it is your technically your astral body that is your soul at this point. It does reside your consciousness. Your consciousness is your oversoul. Your astral body is a fractal down of yourself. And that singular astral body of the fractal is what has all the experience. So the astral body gets, the cord gets cut, the silver cord or whatever color your cord is.
By the
There,
Reaper.
uh, yes, by the Reaper, or it will just naturally disintegrate by itself. If it's cut by the Reaper, it's a census still. So, um, the thing is that there's a huge thing that goes into that. I'll get into that like
Okay.
sometime later on in a different episode,
Okay.
if I have permission. So your cord gets cut, your astral body, which is what most people see when they OBE or out of body experience. They can either look like themselves from their blueprinted of their human body, especially if they're kind of a new soul and they don't know that they can make whatever that their soul that they want from the past DNAs that they've had to create themselves as the image that they want. Um, so you have your astral body, and then a reaper will come, or you call them in and you say where you want to go. And then what was I going to say? There's something important that I forgot. Okay. So the reaper will take you directly to those places. You do not have to touch the rivers.
That's important.
This is the
Okay.
stipulation. You do not have to cross any of the rivers in order to uh, be transported to where you want to go. You are safe. You are not needing a bodyguard for anything. Nothing's going to attack you. They will do this for free. I have to put that very clearly. They will do this for free. Because you asked Source to help. So
Because
if you
I don't want everyone to think they have to go to hell first to get evaluated before they go. That's not true at
No,
all.
no, no, no. So say someone's Christian, okay? It's one of the most popular religions, I'm told. And the Reaper comes to get you. They're gonna take place of like an unless you actually have contracts with one of the angels to come and get you, the Reaper is going to come and then they're gonna take you to Yahweh's heaven or Yahshua's heaven, whichever one you want. And then you get evaluated by that deity if you are allowed into their afterlife. If you're not, then you will basically go through the rivers, or a reaper will come and get you to go to hell or to a different overlay. Usually it is hell though, because we're all neutral and we take everybody. Um,
That's what you meant by you are evaluated based on the religious programming you're following or whatever, or spiritual belief or soul, whatever. You're evaluated on that. You're evaluated on the laws of the particular universe you're
mhm.
from. Like ours was 50% dark, 50% light, free will. So you're saying if you go over 50% dark, would they not accept you and then you'd go to hell for reevaluation? That's what I.
So it's kind of confusing with the 50% dark. There are tenets that any deity, whether they're good or bad, that their followers have to abide by in order to get the prize or to get, into their afterlife. So it doesn't matter what religion you are, most of the tenets are pretty much the same. Be a good person, don't be a jerk, don't steal, unless you're starving or whatever your tenets are.
Okay.
If you
Okay.
follow and abide by these rules, you will get in there. Now, most people don't know that there's several tiers in Yahshua and Yahweh's heaven. There are several tiers that you can get to, and if you don't follow all of those tenets exactly, you're not going to get to the highest tier of luxury in their afterlife. Especially if you want to live there
But
instead of just being a soul.
also, all of this is dependent on the frequency you're able to maintain, right? Like the different tiers, there could be higher frequencies, lower frequencies of a reality. So, say someone's 3.5 crosses over, they're going to be allowed. Does it depend on what if they're 3.5? These are all really huge things. 3.5% in our density in body, but they're fifth density in consciousness. Does that marry and then qualify them to go to all other fifth dimensional options as long as they're, do you know what I'm saying?
So let's take me for example. Okay, I'm not going to explain how. I'm a very high tier conscious. My astral body is extremely high tier. Okay, I am here in a lower grade body, and I still have to go through the ascension process in order to get certain perks. But once I get off world, like, because I'm not actually registered to this planet, but say star seeds who are 10th tier dimensional, okay, of consciousness, not physics, but consciousness, get put into a 3.5 body version. And
Ugh.
they only have like 5 years before that body dies. And then they, have to go get audited for what they've done. And if they're a really bad person, it still goes against their karmatic debt. They still have to go and get that stuff done in the correction facilities of whomever correctional facility it is. It's not just hell, there's other correctional facilities. So
But the mind control and all that has been taken into account also. Like
if
if,
there is no mind control, and okay, so say no one is as part of the SSP program, and you're just a normal civilian, and you have mind control of the normal stuff of religion and politics, and maybe MK Ultra is in your city every now and then, but you are kind of receptive to it. That is very low manipulation. We're talking very low because you still have more free will to ignore that and follow what's in your heart than someone like me and a few other SSP people who have gotten our free wills 100% stripped and had to go do terrible things.
mhm.
So, are we going to be judged the same?
Everyone's evaluated one on one. Everyone is unique in that.
Yes. When you are audited for let's say I'm to go to get audited by Yahweh, and you, Marilee, are going to get audited by Yahweh, and we've done the same thing. Say I kicked a baby or something. I'm just
Uh-huh.
kidding.
Uh-huh.
And then you kicked a baby. You kicked a baby because there was a spider on it that was gonna kill it. Okay. But the damage to the baby out preceded of what was going to happen to that child.
Yes.
Okay. If the spider bit it, the baby like maybe broke its arm or something. That's pretty extreme, but still, you caused trauma to that child, but it saved its life. Other than me, where I go in and just decimate an entire orphanage because I was under, mind control.
Right.
Now,
Okay.
because you ended up saving a life and your intentions were pure and you had no intention of harming that child,
Which it brings in the importance of motives and intentions.
right, you're gonna be forgiven. Like,
Yeah.
especially if the soul that you injured forgave you, been like, oh, you saved my life, but I got a broken arm. That
Bummer.
soul will, yeah, it's like bummer, that sucks, but thank you,
Yeah.
versus me where I go in and decimate everyone and those souls might not forgive me, because I did even though I was under mind control, I did terrible things. Source will forgive me, but I still have to go through the correctional facility and work through all of that trauma of every individual, which still might keep me out from being in Yahweh's heaven. That is up to him, whether his stipulations or not
Yeah.
allow me to enter. So, because what would work for him or what wouldn't work for him of having a good afterlife, other deities who are neutral will be like, okay, you were under mind manipulation. We're still going to get you through the correctional facility. You're still going to have a good afterlife after you get out of the correctional facility. It's just, you're going to be, chilling out in the Bahamas in a bamboo shack that, you kind of had to made with no cell phone service and, being kind of bored because you're used to higher stimulation versus being at the VIP party and, in Yahweh's heaven, like, jamming it up with the angels every night and getting cocktails or something.
Okay. All right. Oh my gosh, this is so amazing. Okay, let's go back then to Okay, that's what I thought because I want to make sure that people don't think this is an education about hell, your options, and how to make wise pre-life, I hate the word death, pre-crossing or pre-dropping the body decisions. Okay, so hell is not something that is where the evaluation happens for everybody. You just bypass us, whatever.
No, no,
And
no.
the, and the Reapers have access to immediately being able to figure out everything in you immediately.
It
Like,
it is not their job to audit. The Reaper's job is to only transport. It is not their job to audit or judge. They are only there to take you where you tell them to. And if you don't know where to tell that you don't know where to go, they're going to take you to hell because it's the neutral zone. It is not there for sinners. It's not there for, well, it is, I mean, the correctional facility is, but the majority of it isn't. You're going to get audited fairly, and actually a little bit more fairly than some deities. And then you're going to have a pretty basic but comfortable and peaceful afterlife if you're a good person. And you don't have to be like, oh, my shoes are shined and, I wear nice duds all the time and I'm giving all my money out. You just have to be a decent person, okay? If you're following the decent golden rules of the universe, again, the golden rules, don't do to others as you would like to have them do unto you. And that is like the top golden rule because if you
unless you're
fall,
unless you're a masochist.
Yeah.
uh, you know, if you follow that with the environment, with your friends, your family, your community, you're going to have a decent afterlife. And things happen, and we have to take accountability that, oh, maybe I could have, you know, I shot at this person and hit him in the stomach and he died while I was protecting my family. Was there another way I could have done this? At the time, you would not have had the education, so it would have been a no, but you still have to take responsibility for that, the accountability of karma,
Mhm.
but it won't be as bad because it was self-protection, but it's still there, you
Right.
know. So, and then hopefully become educated enough to disarm that situation if you ever have it in a different afterlife, to where you're not collecting that karmatic debt. This is what redemption and reformation is all about, is learning to be educated and self-reflecting enough and aware enough to know how to handle situations of trauma so they're not traumatic, going and spreading throughout. We deal with them in a disarming way that is going to be beneficial for everybody.
If
Know thyself.
I may
Amir.
add,
Yeah.
so this exact process of learning to have compassion and forgiveness and to be open to learning and evolving, this shard of the infinite soul, the wisdom that we acquire here, will benefit the infinite soul. And so that would be the purpose of coming into machines like Earth School, right? So that is if you learn, but many of us do. So very, very well. Over and over, we go through it until we learn. And so this whole thing for the souls that participate and are eager to learn, that are flexible, that are open to the possibility of evolution is beneficial. And then there's some that go cray cray. They don't learn and they just set fire to the world, and that's what floats their boat. They are not going to be rewarded. The soul shard often doesn't make it out. There's nothing left to correct. And so the gain of the infinite soul coming in is nada, nothing. Hey, you messed up. You're not rewarded for participation. So that's one of the other facts. Most people, I'm talking 95% of souls in human bodies, they are decent. We all have our flaws.
They
And
are.
so, there's always room for evolution. If they choose to return to the Earth machine, the Earth school, so be it. But it's not going to be quite so severe and painful and traumatic anymore. And if they wish to go and experience other systems of, let's say, natural evolution, which is going to be slower but appropriately much more gentle, we here, choosing to come here, we are extremists. We are the tough ones.
Mhm.
There's so many places in the cosmos we can go to, but we want to come down here because it's fast. It's so terrible, but the rewards are equally in proportion to this hardship. So
And the
And
evaluation is in equal proportion to the hardship, isn't it?
yeah,
Or
yeah.
does it not matter how hard it is? You still keep your pure self-referential as best you can. Do you know?
Sometimes the soul shard goes really bad. It becomes cancerous. It becomes a plague. Then, no, 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 that's not going anywhere. You're staying here. Poof, wiping it out. But often we succeed. We learn. Then the rewards are proportionate. And in the cases that somebody keeps failing, there is no reward. So they've wasted their own time. Nothing comes out. If they fail, they've learned nothing. They did not learn compassion under pressure, to heal and forgive and love when they are betrayed. So you've learned nothing. What you want, off you go.
Yeah. Yeah, try not to take things personal unless it is. you know, interesting. Okay. We're going to save the rivers,
Yeah, that's
that
fine.
detail for the next time, but I want to close because we're coming down to 2.5 hours already. Um, we've covered so many important points. So we'll leave it off where you have free will. If you know you have free will, if you ask the questions to go wherever you want to go, they'll let you know. Your Reaper, right, will let you know if you can go and take you there immediately. Whew, solution solved. Because I also read two near-death experiences where one was an atheist, one was agnostic. They just found themselves in hell, going, "What the hell?" And they said it was a horrible experience. And then
It,
finally, it occurred to them. They said they didn't believe in Jesus or anybody. And in this case, it occurred to them to go, "Jesus Christ, if you exist, will you help me?" And boom, light came and whatever, and pull out. So that was always fascinating, you know?
if
Anyway,
you call to a deity, they may hear you. But I'm just saying, I just say call the Reapers because they are a neutral faction. They are non-biased, and they're from source of creation to help protect your soul and guide you in where you need to go. So, if you want to call if you want to call your deity, your other guardian that you have made, if you've made contracts with them, then go for it. If you trust them, that's the thing. If you trust them, then go for it.
and,
And
and always ask if it's really them, too.
yeah, and always ask if it's really them. I mean, for those who actually died permanently and called Jesus for or whatever, he may show up. He may teleport you to where you need to be, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're getting in. It's okay to ask for help. Doesn't mean you're gonna get the fullness of what you want, but asking for help and then having him, if say the person died and then ended up in hell and decided to call for Jesus, you are asking them to take you in. And so they will teleport you up to heaven, and Saint Peter will do your audit because he does that too. Well, and Jesus or Yahshua will do your audit, or the Holy Spirit. There's terminology in there. They will do your audit, and if you don't get in, they will summon a reaper to you to take you back down to hell.
That's your only other option?
Well, or you could go to somewhere else but most Christians don't really know where else to
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you get denied from one deity, you can bounce around until you find one that you want to be with, okay? You have all eternity.
With lots of cheesecake. Can would you take me in?
Right? Like you have all eternity to choose where you want to go, but I still recommend having a reaper with you so you don't have to pay to travel the rivers, which we'll get until later. You don't have you'll have that protection with you. So, because it is your afterlife, you get to choose, but again, there's stipulations in order to get into some places. Hell is always free. And I'm not trying to promote hell and like the like, oh, it's free, come visit, everything like that. I'm
A
not trying
great
to do that.
T-shirt.
Yeah, I get a t-shirt. You know,
You should
torch of hell.
That's awesome.
on the
But
back though, but don't call me.
That's even better. Hell is free, but don't call me.
Now, usually the t-shirt would be like, hell is free, bring more wine.
Exactly. Exactly. Folks, you're going to learn so much fun, amazing things, truly, in this. But we covered the basic. I'm trying to keep it somewhat linear for humans. So the basic thing of, okay, you've crossed over, what's important, all the things you need to know, your options. So we covered quite a lot today, and I'm so appreciative of everything. Is let's have each of you finish with any last thing that you think is important for people to know having to do with what we talked about. Apollymi, do you want to go first?
There was one more important thing that I wanted to say that I know you're going to agree with this. So, when a person dies, calling a reaper is important. However, if you made a golden contract, or say you're a star seed, you came down here, and then you made a contract that when this earth body dies, you immediately go back to your star family, and because your body's in stasis or whatever, that contract is still valid. All right. So when you die, you will immediately get transported back into your into your uh, stasis body. You don't have to go through the reincarnation process. Your soul is technically already still accounted for. It's kind of a loophole, which is what the dark forces and light forces are using constantly, which also kind of need to stop a little bit because it is bending the rules a bit, a bit too much. So,
But it's
um,
a default, so you don't have to ask the Reaper and go, "Hi, I think I'm in stasis over here, so can you take me there?" You're saying when you cross over, there's going to be this automatic default where you end
for
up there.
most people, there is an automatic default. For those who have soul shards in a body, that's a bit more tricky because those shards can be taken. So you're gonna have to really trust your ET family to come and pick you up immediately, or like something.
Yeah,
So like I said, it's a loophole, and so it's tricky and it's not protected by like the Reapers or anything else like that. So
yeah, whole different contracts.
yes.
That's very important. Thank you for putting that in. Amir.
That a sense of humor and childlike joy facilitates great ease. Whether it's the Reaper and you pick on their garments, say, what the hell are you wearing? What the actual hell? You're right. Or getting into the pearly gates or to the gates of hell, which is neutral, or to the to the entity that's responsible for correcting you. The sense of humor is always a good thing. And childlike joy, there's wonder. Wonder doesn't start and end with one incarnation, and it doesn't stop or end between incarnations either. There's always opportunities to learn and evolve, even between bodies, where you integrate that wisdom acquired through the experience of that lifetime. It's more beautiful than ugly. It is more joyful than horrifying. There are wonders that the human mind cannot bear. And once we are liberated, there is so much more glory and wonder. So there is no fear, there is no cruelty. It just is. And so you make of it what you wish. If you want to make it happy and enjoyable and entertaining, so it will be. If you're an a-hole in life, you're going to be an a-hole in death.
Mhm.
So you will be treated accordingly. See, just shedding the body doesn't change much. So try to learn compassion, making and creating joy in every instance, although some things may be not so agreeable. We have great control over what happens to us because at the end of the day, we are the ones creating all reality.
Yeah, couldn't better say it. Beautiful ending. Amir, why don't you tell people how they contact you and what you provide?
Thank you so much. They can find me using my website, wizardofwivenhoe.co.uk. I do an energy car wash, so that's clearing the light body from trauma, facilitating them standing on their own 2 feet. I also do a transfer of an evolutionary process called the Kujikiri. I do intuitive reading. So Everything is on my website. And also, if you're seeing this, please subscribe to my baby YouTube channel, also called Wizard of Wivenhoe. It will be much appreciated. Bless you. I love you all. Thank you.
Oh, thanks so much. And Apollymi, you're off world mostly. Don't want any contact. Don't call you. They'll, yeah.
But bring wine. Bring
Bring one.
wine.
If you have any questions, by the way, folks, if you have any questions, and believe me, we're going to get more into details and important things, but if you have any specific question that's always been on your mind about afterlife or what happens when you drop this body, email me at merely at cosmicbrilliance.com, and I will make sure that's included as we go along. Okay, so that's the best we can do. And so many blessings. And I look forward to part 3 with you all. Thank you so much. Onwards and upwards, folks.
Thank you.
Bye bye.